Everyone, and welcome to your project Data Under Control with Autodesk Vault. My name is Juliana and I work in marketing here at MicroCAD. And today's presenter is James Dumont, our applications specialist. At today's webinar, we will discover how we can all better manage our data with Vault. Throughout the webinar, you can ask a question at any given point on the left-hand corner. You can ask Jim to revisit a step or ask any questions. This is your time, and we want you to make the most of it. And in the upper left-hand corner, you will find links to our website and social media. Also, make sure to check our YouTube channel. We post all of our webinars there at the end, so you can share with colleagues or rewatch it on your own time. And without further ado, we'll pass it on to James. Hi, Jim.
Hi, Juliana. Thank you. Let me share my screen. Actually, close this and share. All right. Thank you again. Hello, everyone. I can't really see who's online, so I think we have a handful of people that have attended for this afternoon, so I do appreciate you taking the time out of your day. So this afternoon, we're going to be really focusing on the Autodesk Vault data standard. We really need to be able to control the data as you're creating it. That's one of the things we wanted to show here. In your chat window, I didn't have time to create any kind of polls in here, but I'd like to find out, has anyone used the Vault data standard in the past? If you just put, type in like yes in your chat window, and Juliana will be able to see that. Just curious to find out if anyone's actually used it.
I will let you know if anybody replies. You can keep going.
So I'm expecting that to be a very small number, if any. The other question is, have you heard of it? Does anyone know about it? Never mind using it, but have you actually heard of it? So interesting to get those answers to those two questions. So the Vault data standard, let me switch back over to here. I've got not enough screens. Let's switch here. Okay. So the Vault data standard, basically what it is, it installs with the Vault Professional. It does not work with Vault Basic. And the first thing, before you can even make use of the Vault data standard or the VDS, is that your Vault needs to be configured correctly. And that means your categories, your properties, your numbering, because it's going to use all of that as you start to use it and work with it inside of your CAD and your Vault environment. So the VDS and Inventor, so let's talk about what that is. So again, VDS is the Vault data standard.
Hey, James.
Yes.
Jason here is saying that he heard of it through a client.
Okay.
So yeah, I guess you're right. It's not like a very...
Yeah, it's one of those programs that's so obscure and it's not the most intuitive. Like, Autodesk has never done that before. This program is out of the box. It's rather difficult in order to use. So we want to start to introduce you to it. And today we're really going to be just scratching the surface just so that you can see it, you get exposed to it, and try to see some of the capabilities that it has. What we really want to do is to spark some questions. As you start to go back and start to digest what we've done in this webinar, when you get back to your office, you might think of some things that you can do. Now, MicroCAD can assist you with this, but this is something that you can do on your own if you have any programming capabilities, or if anyone in your company has some programming capabilities. It's not too difficult. A lot of it's going to be XML files, XAML files, PowerScript files. So it's not really heavy code that's got to be compiled and run and things like that. But we'll get into some of that. So the VDS and Inventor is actually very, very smart. I want you to see actually how this works. So let me switch over to Inventor. So in Inventor, when I create a brand new file, I'll just create something simple here. Typical box works really well. Now the problem is when you want to manage your files and you want to enforce company standards, that is something that the VDS can actually assist you with. So for instance, when I save this file, where do I save it to? And then there's a matter of making sure that I check it in. And then are we filling in the appropriate data? Are we filling in the description? Are we filling in the course? Anything that would be relevant on the engineer side when we want to be able to put this information in the drawing. And it's better to do it up front if you know it. Or if not, when you release it, we also have rules involved that you can't release a file or files unless certain criteria is met. And those are things that they work together in concert between the VDS and the Vault with the lifecycle definitions, both file management and the item master. So to get access to the VDS, it's just a matter of save. So it's completely an add-in. It integrates directly with Inventor, AutoCAD. And right now we're just using Inventor. So when I hit save, I'm going to get my new part dialog box. And then in here, where do I want to save this? So this is about enforcing company standards. I only want my users to save the file in folders that are already in the Vault. So if I'm going to, let's say, demo files, and you can see this little flyout is because if that folder has a subfolder, it'll automatically present me with that. And I'm not seeing the folder that I want. So that means that it's got to be created. And we want to enforce company standards. As I mentioned, this is just one example. I can leave it at demo files and then move on from there. But if I wanted to, I can go to Vault. Come on, designs and demo files. I was doing some troubleshooting earlier, so I'm logged into a different Vault. Let me log back into the correct one. Okay. So under demo files, if I do a new folder, and we'll call this folder, again, this is also the VDS. I can control standards based on folder creation. It's going to be MTC Webinar. So now if I hit save, demo, MTC Webinar. So I can control this. So what this can actually mean is that I can restrict permissions of users so they can't create folders. They have to come to the CAD administrator. He'll create the appropriate folders that these files need to be saved into. This might sound restrictive. It doesn't have to be. It can be. Again, it's just about exposing you to the capabilities. So I'm going to do MTC Webinar. Now for the file name, I have these numbering schemes built right into Vault Professional. Now this is focusing on Vault Data Standard. If at any point in time you see something that you're not familiar with, the reason why I'm not speaking about it is because it has to do with Vault and not the VDS. So the numbering schemes are built into Vault, and I'm going to use the sequential, or let's go and use the MTC example. So the numbering scheme will have a prefix of MTC and a uniquely indexed, I think 6 digits after that. The other thing is I can't hit OK. I can't create this file because my description is missing. So right now, I may or may not know what the description is. I'm just going to put a dash right now. And now I can hit OK. When I do this, the file is automatically created, and I'm ready to check the file in. So upon creation, I'm entering the data up front. I'm restricting the user to work with a certain folder structure or not. But again, it's all about how it's configured. So once I've done that, it's saved, it's in the Vault, everything's working well. One of the other issues, if a file, when you open it, all of a sudden you're looking at this, you want to change an I property. You go to the I properties. And let's say you want to change the project number. You cannot type in here because the file is not checked out. You have to get out whatever you're doing. You have to right click on the file and check it out. What's nice about the VDS, it adds the data standard tab inside of Inventor. It has a data sheet built right into it. And it's going to show you all of the properties that are associated with the engineering category. So if I go to project here and I start typing, as soon as I accept it, it's going to automatically prompt me to check the file out. So again, it's about ease of use. I'm not going back and forth. Oh, I forgot to check the file out, because the iProperties has always been an issue when files that were not checked out. You always have to stop what you're doing, check it out, and then make your edits accordingly. So this looks good. And let's go back to here. So it is very, very smart. Now, the number schemes work really nice, and they also work with all the different categories like tube and pipe, frame generator. It works very, very intelligently with all of the different other add-ins for Inventor. Okay. Now, the one thing that you may or may not like are these little breadcrumbs. That's what they call this. This is a programming technology, or terminology rather. So when I click on demo, I'm sorry, I'm going to back up a little bit here. Go back to Inventor. When I create a new file, and as soon as I hit save, as soon as I drop down a folder, I'm automatically going to get this, they call it a breadcrumb, where else you want to place this file. Some people like this, some people don't like this. What I want is, give me the subfolder option, but don't fly it out. Let me choose to use it whether or not I need to. So we want to be able to customize that. So let's talk about where these files are. Let me see here. The VDS folder structure is on the C drive, program data. Now, program data is by default a hidden file. So in Windows, you'd have to make sure that you can actually see those folders. And then it's going to be Autodesk, the Vault version, the extensions, and the data standard. That is going to be by default. That's where everything goes. And it needs to stay there. And so we're going to discuss how that works right now and how I would make a little change to this. All right, so in Inventor, I do not want to see the breadcrumbs. I want to shut this off. I don't want to see that. So what I want to do is be able to edit the code. You can use Notepad, an XML editor, whatever you choose to. Recently, I've been using the visual source code. And what I like about this, let me cancel this. It remembers where I was last, and it does a really nice editing capabilities for PowerScripts, XML, and XAML files. So it really handles them well. Now, I'm looking at the data standard folder. This is in that program data, Autodesk, the Vault 2023, extensions data standard. That's what I'm looking at. In there, you're going to see CAD and CAD custom. So basically what you want to do is, if you don't modify this at all, it's using everything out of the CAD folder. Then there's a Vault folder. So this is for the customizing within the actual Vault client. So right now I'm going to focus on the CAD client. So I'll collapse that. And what's preferred is that you copy anything from the CAD to the CAD custom. This way here, if you make a mistake, you can always go back to the original. So in the CAD custom and the add-ins, I see nothing in there. So here is my default. And if I look at my initialize window, the breadcrumbs are set to true. So really, I just need this bit of code. I don't need all of it. I only want to copy what I need. So all I'm going to do is take, starts over here. This is where understanding some of coding is helpful, but this is really a PS1 is just a PowerScript file. So I'm just going to copy this data. And for the CAD custom add-ins, I'm going to create a new file. The name of the file is irrelevant. I just try to keep it consistent. What it's looking for is the code initialize window. And in here, I'm going to make the breadcrumb vault. And I'll save it. So now when I hit my save, it lets me know that there's a subfolder, but it's not flying it out automatically. I can get it if I need it and then move on from there. So that's a simple little configuration, but it's easy to do. And I simply did it by editing a PowerScript file. Okay. Cancel this. So let's talk about the dynamic properties. So when you're inside of Inventor and you're saving a file, you're going to see all of the properties that are associated with the category that's chosen. So I do want to talk about that quickly here. I'm sorry, I have to keep going back and forth between PowerPoint and I have to bring up the applications. All right, so when I create a new file, this is a good one to use, and I hit save. If I drop this down, and by default, most companies, especially the ones that I've worked with, the Vault is configured. It has rules. So when you create a file and you check it in, there are certain conditions. If they're met, it'll automatically assign categories to those files. So for instance, most cases, if it's an Inventor file, an IPT, IAM, IDW, once I save that and check it in, it'll be categorized as Inventor. So what happens is if I choose to change this to, let's say, purchased, and I use my numbering scheme of sample, you can see that purchase does not require description or anything like that, but engineering does. So this is what they call those dynamic properties. So engineering requires it in order to create it, but I don't need it in order to save it and check it in. I really need it to release it. So if I were to switch over to purchased, and I put this in demo and then webinar right here, that looks good. And I hit OK. The rules override everything. So if I choose an inappropriate category in the VDS, as soon as I check that file in, the rule will take over. It will look at the file and automatically assign it the correct category. So in Inventor, if you're not aware of this, this is the Vault browser. I like having the category name, the revision, and the state displayed inside of the Vault browser. You can see that the file is engineering and it's work in progress. So it worked properly, even though in VDS I overrode it. So there's some overlap in technology. If I did not have the rule set inside of Vault, I could do it in the VDS. If there are rules set, that will override anything that you do incorrectly in the VDS. Okay, so that is that. Now, when I'm in here and I go to my data sheet, because it's engineering, I'm going to see all of these different properties. There are some that I may not want to see or don't need to see. Like, for instance, the let's go with the manager. I don't need to see that. And the other thing is title, description, and part number. I'd like material to be below part number. So that's just a matter of modifying an XML file, and that's going to be on the CAD custom, dynamic properties. Here's my category engineering. Now this is created automatically. So if you create a new category and add similar properties, this file will get created dynamically. So what I've done is I've already added a few. You see hidden is true, which means I don't want to see certain properties. So I'm looking for manager. So here is the manager right here. Hidden is equal to true. I won't see it. And then the material, I would like that. I'm going to cut that out of here, and I'm going to put that underneath the part number. I'm just a little bit, it doesn't matter, but I'm just a little bit OCD, and I'll just get rid of this. And I will save it. Now I'm going to go to my data sheet. Manager's not there, and now the material is below the part number. So these are dynamic properties. So I'll update based on the category that you've set. If I look at, I can't change the category because this file is already categorized. It's only when I create new files. But once it's set, I can control what I see in here dynamically just by modifying that XML file. So you control what you see and when you see it. Okay, so that is that. That's the dynamic properties. And the breadcrumbs I already showed you. I want to be able to shut that off. Okay, now let's talk about switching gears a little bit. I'm going to go into the Vault client and see what we can do there. So let's switch back over to this. There are some companies, and I've had these meetings in the past where when they create a brand new project, they want a certain folder structure. They want certain files to already exist. So you have the ability to do that. So in the webinar right here, I have the ability to create a new standard file. Now, it's all based on how and what you want to configure. So now in here, when I create this, I can specify maybe I need an MSDS sheet. So I'll actually categorize this as an Office document. And for Inventor, my document type is going to be an Office. So my category will be Office. My document will be an Office. And that's my template file that I want to use. Do I want to use a numbered scheme? That's entirely up to me. I'll say no on this one. And the file name will be, test Word doc. And any other properties I need to fill in, I can do that at this moment. I hit OK. So it's going to use templates that have been predefined, and I can create that document in here. Now, if I wanted to, and again, it's unique per company. When I create a new standard file, I have the ability to I can create Inventor or an Office document. When I do Inventor, I can specify what template file I want to use. Am I doing a part file, doing an assembly file, or sheet metal? That's entirely up to you. That's actually controlled. If we look at the CAD and configuration, let's see here. Oh, I'm sorry. It's going to go to I'm in the custom. I actually forgot what file that is. Give me a second. It's the file XML. Okay. Vault configuration. I'm in the CAD. My mistake. I did the same thing I did earlier today. I'm in the CAD configuration area. I really need to be in the Vault configuration area. There's your add-in. The file, your bombs, configuration, file, and that's going to be Vault configuration, file XML, Vault configuration, and file, there it is. So it's all about knowing what files to work with. So in here, I told it that here's my type that I want to create. It's an Inventor document. And then this is where my templates are. So in this particular case, the templates have to be in Vault. We have a handful of companies where their templates are in a network share. It doesn't work for this. Those templates would have to be inside of the Vault. So if you wanted to create brand new files within the Vault client, okay, again, it's just exposing you to different options and things you can do. Some of these things you may not ever want to do. All right, that's that. That's just showing you the Inventor type. So if you want to do Inventor, AutoCAD, Office, Revit, whatever you wanted to create, you could put them in there, and it's a dynamic file. Okay. So now the default category, that's something also that can be done in here. So right now, let's see, let's switch over back to Inventor. If I create a brand new file, as soon as I hit save, it's going to be set to engineering. Because I haven't set anything, it takes the first category in the list. If you wanted to set a default, you can actually do that. It's just a matter of changing some of the data. That's going to be, I'm going back to the CAD custom. I'm going to collapse this, CAD custom, add-ins, default. And right now, the only thing I'm seeing is the initialize window, because the only thing I've copied over into this file is this. So what I want to do, CAD add-ins, I actually deleted it. So I'm going to copy it very quickly. I had prepped some of these files and I ended up deleting some of the information I actually needed. Let me see here. Oops. I need a few more screens, sorry. Oh, that's my PowerPoint. Okay. There it is. Initialize category. So under the add-ins, this is the default. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this code right here, copy this to my CAD custom add-ins default, and I'm going to add it down here. And then I specify what category I'm looking for here. Value is equal to now when I hit save, it'll default to Office. So that may or may not be what I want. So it's just about controlling that XML file, engineering, and you could do things like that. The other thing that you can do, if it's a drawing file, if it's an IDW or a DWG, you can actually have it filter in the say, if it's a drawing file, let's use the drawing category. If it's a IPT or an IAM, let's use the engineering category. So it can be very intelligent based on the file type and what you're doing. So right now, the only thing I'm doing is hard coding it. So if your default is not what you want, the last thing you want to do is always have to be clicking on the same thing over and over again. Most users in Inventor, when they actually create these categories and create files, they're using a single category. The problem is if the one that you want is not always at the top, the reason why it's not working, something I always forget to do, is I got to save the file. Editing it is not live. You actually have to hit save in order for this to work. And now engineering will be there. So if your users are complaining that every time I create a new file, I have to change the category to this, you're going to want to set that as your default category, just in case the order is not quite right. Okay. So thank you for your patience on that one. All right. So now the number schemes. Now this I'm not going to be able to show you, and we're actually already close at 1:30. One of the things that you can do is if you use the number and schemes within within Vault, they're wonderful. The problem is they're kind of fixed. They can't be really dynamic. We have many requests where when I'm creating a file name, I would like the year and the month to be in there. Using the Vault Data Standard with a PowerShell script, you can take a default number and scheme, and then you can push values to it so that you can end up with a number that has certain information on demand and be very dynamic and not static. Now, you could go into the numbering scheme and let's see, I'm going to be retired in less than 15 years. So I'll put in, 15 years here, and I'll put the different 12 months in there. But that requires the user to always have to enter that information whenever they create a new file. This would be automatic and very dynamic. And that's kind of what the script would look like. It's going to take the information, it's going to take the year and the month and push it to the numbering scheme. Okay, so that's the other custom numbering that you can do is you can link the custom numbering to the product and type. So as the user makes changes to the properties, it's going to be changing the automatic numbering appropriately. Now the custom menu, this is something I really like. If you guys don't mind hanging on there for just a few minutes, I'm just about finished. One of the things that I've seen very, very frequently is a company will go in and let's say they're looking at this folder, right? I'm training. I have assemblies, drawings, and models. I always want these folders in every project that I create. I want this initial structure. So what you're doing is this VDS folder, I would have to right click, create new folder, right click, create new folder. What would be really nice and a time saver is to simply just copy the folder and paste the folders. Now, all it's doing is creating the folder structure. There are no files in it. It's just creating the structure. That's a request that's come up very frequently, and that's done with just a few lines of scripting and a PowerShell script. And that's done in modifying the menus. So that'll be in the Vault menus. Let me see, that's going to be create folder. And then in there, it's just a PowerShell script. I keep forgetting to go to the custom area, Vault custom, add in, menu. There's my copy folder, and there's my paste folder. It's just a few lines of code, but it does all of the work for me. And in the menus, we have the ability to just modify the menu file so it actually is going to add context menu. This is the context of a folder. If I right click on a folder, I can add these menu options. So I can customize the menu. And then when I click on it, it actually runs the script that's in the background. And let's see here. One of the other things I want to show is sometimes when you're looking at an assembly file, it'd be nice to be able to see all of the drawings. We have the history, we have the uses. This shows me where this file is being used. But I was able to add a drawings tab. I still have some tweaking to do on this, but this will show me all of the files. It iterates through the assembly and finds all of the files that are used from all the different components in the assembly and displays them right here. Once you have that, you can create a button if you want to export them, PDF, DXF, things like that. You can then do additional functionality in the background. But it's nice to get a nice list of all of the drawings that make up an assembly. And with that, I appreciate you hanging in there for a few extra minutes. Are there any questions? You can do them in the chat window, and I'd be happy to take them and answer them as best I can.
Thank you, Jan, for that wonderful presentation. And yeah, as he mentioned, you can make a question on the left-hand corner. And in the meantime, I want to remind you all that we have coming up our next webinar will be on December 15. This webinar will be about better PDF editing for CAD with Revit 21 and Bluebeam Cloud. And then on December 21st, we have finding efficiencies and building design for teams with BIM Collaborate. So yeah, we have the registration links on our website on the events section. You can go there and register. And also, as a reminder, if you want to learn these topics in detail, you can always take a custom training with Jim or someone else on our team. We also offer group classes online. So yeah, be sure to be checking the MicroCAD website for all these classes and future webinars. And we have one comment here from Warren. It says, "Good job, Jim. I need to try some of these features out."
Very good, Warren. I'm glad you're able to make it today.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone who attended. I'm going to give you a last minute for questions.
There's a lot of information online. I plagiarized a little bit with this presentation. VDS, I didn't get into that earlier, but I'm not sure if it still is, but there was a time it was actually written for Autodesk by a company called Cool Orange. And Marco, who is the president of Cool Orange, presents the Vault Data Standard pretty much every year at Autodesk University. And some of this information does come from Marco, like the copy and paste. I took his code that he's published. It's free. It's free to use. So if you need any assistance with any of that, I'd be happy to share the information with you.
Thank you, Jim. Okay, and if we don't have any more questions or comments, I would like to thank everyone for attending, and thank you, Jim. As a reminder, we will be sending this recording on demand tomorrow. So yeah, you can also find it on our YouTube channel on the next few days, so you can check it there as well. And yeah, that concludes this webinar today. Thank you, everyone, for attending.
Thanks, everyone. Great holidays.
Happy holidays.